FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is authorized to provide financial assistance to anybody that has funeral expenses related to COVID. If the expenses were incurred on January 20th, 2020 or later, you may be eligible to get financial support to cover those costs. The authority comes from both the American Rescue Plan and the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021. FEMA will begin accepting applications for funeral assistance on Monday, April 12th, 2021, and they're doing this entirely through a dedicated call center. Here's the benefit amount, and FEMA does recognize that somebody might have been financially responsible for multiple funerals because of COVID. So they tell us that the amount is $9,000 per funeral with a maximum of $35,500 per application per state, territory, and they also include the District of Columbia in this. Let's talk about who is eligible. The death must have occurred in the United States or the territories or Washington, D.C. The death certificate must indicate the death was attributed to COVID-19. The applicant must be a U.S. citizen, non-citizen national, or qualified alien who incurred the funeral expenses after January 20th, 2020. But there is no requirement that the person who has died need to follow those same immigration requirements of U.S. citizen or non-citizen national. What is covered? The COVID-19 funeral assistance will assist with expenses for funeral services, interment, cremation, the cost of an urn or casket, the cost of clergy or a marker or a headstone. In the description below, we have a list of examples of covered services, and FEMA says it's not exhaustive. You will be talking with a FEMA representative and going through your expenses, and they will let you know if something is not a covered expense. And here's the phone number to do that. Like we said, it's a designated call center. It's the COVID-19 Funeral Assistance Line is what they're calling it. The numbers are posted in the description below. They also have a TTY line. The applications begin April 12th. You can start calling April 12th, and they do operate 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and that is Central Time, 8 to 8 Central Time. How to apply? You're going to apply entirely over the phone with help from that FEMA representative. There are no opportunities for an online application. They do have multilingual services available. Once you work with your FEMA representative, you're going to get what's called an application number and instructions on how to submit supporting documentation. You can do the supporting documentation by mail, by fax, or at that point, they might help you set up a portal link where you can upload some of those documents. The documentation could look like a couple different things. If you had the COVID-19 funeral expenses, FEMA encourages it to start gathering this documentation now. An official death certificate. This is going to first show that the cause of death was attributed to COVID-19, but it's also going to show that you're eligible based on location, where the death occurred. Was it indeed in the United States, the territories, or Washington, D.C.? Other documentation, funeral expense documents. So things that include the applicant's name, the deceased person's name, the amount of the funeral expense, and the dates that those expenses happened. And this could be receipts. It could be a funeral home contract. You're going to want to just make sure you gather up all of those records in advance so you can verify indeed what you paid for those costs. Proof of funds received from other sources specifically used for funeral costs are also going to be important to have on hand because FEMA can't duplicate those costs. If you've already gotten outside support to cover some costs, FEMA will not be able to give you additional support on those already paid items. How the funds are received. You're going to select the method of payment when you apply for the assistance, and your options are going to be check or direct deposit. FEMA is also issuing a warning that they're not going to call anybody offering this hands-on assistance until you actually take the first step and call their call center. This is to make sure that you're not talking to somebody that's trying to defraud you out of your funeral expenses support. So they say, we're not proactively calling people, cold calling people. You call us first, and then we'll start the process. It's a way to guarantee you're actually talking to a FEMA.gov representative. Now, the statement of the acting FEMA administrator, Bob Fenton, is that at FEMA, our mission is to help people before, during, and after disasters. And this COVID pandemic has caused immense grief for so many people. And he continues, although we cannot change what has happened, we affirm our commitment to help with the funeral and burial expenses that many families did not anticipate. In the description below, more information from FEMA on this new financial assistance program. They also have posted a frequently asked questions page that goes into much more detail and is quite useful.